The air hangs thick with the acrid bite of smoke, curling up from shattered stone and smoldering wood. You hear the distant crackle of flames devouring ancient timbers, punctuated by the sharp cries of fleeing figures echoing across the hillside. Then comes the site, a once sacred precinct, its colonnades toppled like fallen giants. Statues of heroes and gods alike smashed into jagged fragments under the boots of invaders. A young woman, her white robes torn and soot-streaked, clutches a bronze lamp as she runs, its eternal flame flickering wildly before it's dashed to the ground. Chaos reigns in this holy place, where peace was meant to endure forever. But this is no random raid. This is calculated fury, unleashed by a king who saw opportunity in desecration. And as the flames climb higher, one question burns brightest. How far would he go to break an enemy? What you're about to hear involves the destruction of a sacred site, the enslavement of innocents, and acts of violence that scarred an entire people. These events are documented in ancient chronicles, but they're deeply disturbing. If you need to step away, I understand. For those staying, we focus on understanding the system that enabled this, not exploiting the suffering. This wasn't mere warfare. This was a perversion of power, where a king twisted retaliation into sacrilege, turning a sanctuary of unity into a symbol of division. In the turbulent world of ancient Greece, empires clashed not just over land, but over legacies. The Macedonian kingdom, forged by conquerors like Alexander the Great, now rested in the hands of a young ruler eager to prove his mettle. Facing the Aetolian League, a confederation of rugged mountain tribes united against outsiders, Philip V saw a chance to assert dominance. The Aetolians had struck first, ravaging Macedonian holy sites in a bid for regional control, but Philip's response went beyond revenge. It exposed a machinery of ambition, advisors whispering poison, armies drilled for plunder, and a bureaucracy that tallied spoils like ledger entries. Why does this echo today? Because it reveals how leaders, under the guise of justice, can erode the very boundaries that hold societies together. This story isn't about isolated cruelty. It's about the system that amplified it, leaving scars that archaeology still uncovers millennia later. Picture the Macedonian kingdom in the late 3rd century, before the Common Era, a sprawling realm stretching from the Balkans to the edges of Greece, built on the bones of conquest. Philip V ascended the throne at just 17, inheriting a throne stabilized by his adoptive uncle, Antigonus Doson. The kingdom boasted a professional army, the phalanx, with its long sarissas spears that could impale enemies from afar, but threats loomed everywhere. To the south, the Achaean League allied with Macedon, sharing a common foe, the Aetolians, a federation of city-states in central Greece known for their guerrilla tactics and democratic assemblies. Aetolia's heart beat at Thermum, a sanctuary nestled in the mountains near Lake Trachonis, not a bustling city, but a spiritual and political hub where leagues met, festivals unfolded, and the Temple of Apollo stood as a beacon of unity. Carved into rocky slopes, its colonnades shaded votive offerings from across Greece, statues, armor, treasures dedicated to the gods. The tension simmered for years. Aetolians, fierce and independent, raided neighbors to fund their league, viewing Macedon as an overbearing bully. In the social war, sparked by territorial disputes, they escalated. Aetolian forces, led by bold commanders, crossed into Macedonian territory. They torched Dium, a sacred town near Mount Olympus, smashing altars and looting temples. Dodona, the ancient oracle of Zeus, suffered similarly, its bronze cauldrons overturned, prophecies silenced amid flames. These acts weren't just military, they struck at the divine order, inviting outrage from all who revered the gods. Philip, still finding his footing as king, felt the sting personally. His kingdom's prestige hinged on protecting such sites. Advisors swarmed him, veterans from past campaigns, diplomats from allied states. Among them, 2 voices dominated, one urging restraint, the other fueling fire, Philip wasn't born a destroyer. Raised in the shadow of great predecessors, he endured a fractured childhood. His father, Demetrius the Sound, died young in battle against invading tribes, leaving Philip orphaned at 9. Adopted into the royal line, he trained in the arts of war and statecraft, learning to wield the phalanx and negotiate alliances. A formative moment came during his uncle's regency, witnessing the restoration of order after internal chaos. He grasped how mercy could bind loyalties. Another pivotal event struck when he led his first campaign against Illyrian pirates, tasting victory, but also the cost of unchecked ambition. These experiences molded him into a strategic thinker, capable of brilliance. Yet, vulnerability lingered, a young king proving himself amid skeptical nobles. When Aetolian raids hit home, paranoia crept in. Whispers of betrayal from within his court amplified the threat. And then, the inciting spark. Reports of Aetolian atrocities at Dium and Dodona reached Pella, the Macedonian capital. Sacred flames extinguished, priests scattered. These weren't abstract losses. They were assaults on the gods themselves, demanding response. Philip convened his council. The path to Thermum lay open, a tempting mirror to their enemy's crimes. But would he cross the line from warrior to desecrator? The turning point arrived that spring. As Philip mustered his forces, scouts confirmed Aetolian troops were divided, half lured away to distant fronts. Opportunity gleamed like a sharpened blade. He set sail from Corinth, navigating treacherous waters to land near Aetolia's borders. Allies joined, Achaeans hungry for payback, Epirots with old grudges. The march began under cover of night, a serpentine column winding through valleys. Philip rode at the head, his mind racing. This raid would send a message, but at what price? As they crossed the Achelous River, the landscape shifted, fertile plains giving way to rugged hills. Villages fell first, their thatched roofs igniting like tinder. Smoke signals rose, but too late for warnings. By dawn, the army crested the pass to Thermum. The sanctuary sprawled below, temples gleaming in the morning light, colonnades alive with pilgrims preparing for the annual fair. No walls defended it. Faith had been its shield. Until now, Alara lived for the temple. At 22, she served as a priestess in Apollo's sanctuary, tending the eternal flame that symbolized divine favor. Born in a nearby village, she entered service young, drawn by stories of oracles and festivals. Her days blended ritual and community, sweeping marble floors, arranging offerings from merchants and farmers, sharing meals with fellow attendants. Thermum wasn't opulent like Delphi, but it pulsed with life. Debates in the assembly hall, laughter during feasts. Alara cherished the quiet moments, polishing bronze lamps under starlit skies. She had no inkling of the storm brewing. That morning, she rose early, her white chiton draped simply, hair bound in a fillet. Pilgrims milled about, traders hawking wares. The air smelled of incense and fresh bread. Then, distant shouts shattered the peace. Horns blared. Figures poured over the hills. Macedonian soldiers, shields glinting, spears leveled. Panic erupted. Alara froze, then ran toward the temple, clutching a sacred vessel. This was her world, her duty. How could invaders dare? The confrontation built like a gathering storm. Philip halted his troops at the outskirts, surveying the prize. Thermum's riches tempted, granaries bulging, treasuries laden with dedications. He issued orders, secure the site, seize valuables, but restraint frayed. Soldiers, fueled by tales of Aetolian raids, surged forward. Villagers fled or hid. Some grabbed makeshift weapons. A group of elders approached, palms outstretched, pleading sanctuaries and inviolability. Philip's response was curt. This was retribution. The demand echoed, surrender goods or face the consequences. Resistance flared, a skirmish near the assembly hall, where Aetolian guards clashed with invaders. Spears thrust, blood spilled on sacred ground. Alara, inside the temple, barred the doors with others. Whispers of prayer mingled with fear. Outside, The refusal sealed fates. Philip nodded. The assault began. The act unfolded in restrained fury. Flames licked at outlying buildings first, then spread to colonnades. Soldiers hacked at statues, toppling marble figures of heroes. Treasuries cracked open, gold and silver hauled away. The temple of Apollo trembled as roofs caved. Alara and her companions were dragged out, their cries lost in the din. Not all perished. Many were bound, destined for chains. This wasn't passion's outburst. It was systematic. Officers tallying loot, scribes noting acquisitions. By evening, Thermum smoldered, its heart gutted. Word spread like wildfire through Aetolia. Messengers on lathered horses carried talisas of desecration. Villages emptied in fear. Leagues convened in outrage. This wasn't about one site. It was about the system, Philip's machine of conquest, where plunder funded armies, terror quelled dissent. Historians debate the exact toll. Estimates of destroyed statues hover around 2,000, spared only those divine. But the human cost? Whole communities uprooted, families torn. A modern parallel whispers from history's pages, how sacred sites become targets in conflicts, from ancient temples to contemporary shrines, reminding us power often profanes what it can't control. But that wasn't the worst part. Philip's advisors had planted the seed, and now it grew unchecked. Shift to the command tent, where decisions birthed the horror. Aratus, the seasoned Achaean leader, watched with unease. A statesman from Sicyon, he had forged alliances through diplomacy, not destruction. He argued for mercy, spare the temples, win hearts. But Demetrius of Pharos, an exiled pirate king with a grudge against Rome, whispered otherwise. Show strength, he urged. Break their spirit. Philip, torn between mentors, leaned toward fire. The escalation rippled outward. From Thermum, raiding parties fanned across Aetolia, torching farms, herding livestock. A merchant's widow, her home razed, trudged with children toward safety. Villages emptied, their inhabitants funneled into captivity, women and children prized as labor, men as oarsmen or fighters. The machinery hummed, quartermasters distributed spoils, incentivizing loyalty. A soldier who had served a decade pocketed silver, dreaming of retirement. Yet, amid the blaze, a quiet irony. Birds nested in charred ruins, indifferent to human folly. The system spread like veins through the army. Reports flowed up the chain, captains to generals, generals to Philip. Incentives drove it, shares of booty for efficiency, promotions for zeal. In one valley, a detachment cornered refugees, bindings tightened, marches began toward Macedonian markets. Numbers swelled in human terms, families shattered, futures chained. But include a breather here, the sun dipping low, casting golden hues over Lake Draconis. A lone olive tree stood unscathed, its branches whispering, forgotten peace. Dark contrast amid horror, beauty persisting where men failed. She had 3 days left in freedom. Alara didn't know it yet. Dragged from the temple, she joined a column of captives snaking down the pass. Chains chafed wrists, guards prodded with spear butts. Whispers among prisoners, some destined for households, others mines. The escalation hit different angles. A witness from a nearby farm saw the smoke, fled to warn leagues. His view, not just loss, but erosion of trust. How could gods protect if kings defied them? Geographic shifts compounded it. Raids hit Stratus next, then Canopy. The system adapted. Scouts probed defenses. Phalanxes formed walls. One brief moment, a captured elder, spared for ransom, recounted horrors to kin. Different victim type, an artisan whose workshop fed the sanctuary. Now ashes. The machine ground on, but cracks hinted, overextended lines, weary troops. What happened next would alarm an entire league. The climax crested as Philip pushed deeper. Peak horror loomed at Thermum's core, the temple fully engulfed, time slowed, flames danced on marble, shadows lengthened, soldiers paused, awestruck by their own audacity, sensory overload, Heat-searing skin, ash-choking lungs, crashes of falling beams. The act peaked in implication, sacred flames doused, offerings scattered. Ilara, bound near the ruins, watched her world crumble. No gore lingered, focus on the void left behind. Then, the crack, Philip's overreach. In sparing divine statues, he acknowledged limits, but the verse scrawled on walls, "Seest thou how far the bolt divine hath sped?" Betrayed hubris. Aetolian reinforcements gathered, harrying retreats. Alexander of Trachonium led a counterattack, clashing in the pass. Spears flew, bodies fell. Philip ambushed them, routing the force, over 100 slain, as many captured, but the victory rang hollow. The system strained. Allies questioned the sacrilege. Morale dipped. What broke? Not the victims alone, but the illusion of invincibility. Philip withdrew, booty-laden, but seeds of doubt sown. Transition to aftermath, a king triumphant yet tainted. Philip's fate unfolded gradually. He forced peace on Aetolia within years, but Rome loomed larger. Defeated at Cynocephalae decades later, he died, broken, his kingdom diminished. Survivors scattered, some ransomed, others lost to slavery's maw. Ilara vanished into records, perhaps a household servant in Pella, her rituals forgotten. Aetolia rebuilt, but scars lingered. The league weakened. Ripe for Roman conquest, power shifted south, where Rome absorbed Greece. Long-term, Macedonian decline accelerated, Hellenic autonomy eroded. One ironic detail, the documents chronicling the sack, meant to condemn, preserved Philip's name for eternity, turning villainy into legacy. Modern eyes rediscovered Thermum through spade and sift. In the late 19th century, Greek archaeologists unearthed the site, revealing burned layers from that fateful year, charred timbers, shattered pottery, tangible proof of flames. Excavations in the 20th century, led by teams from the Ephorate of Antiquities, uncovered temple foundations, confirming Polybius's accounts. A key find, inscribed bases of spared statues, echoing the selective destruction. Who unearthed it? Dedicated scholars piecing puzzles under summer suns, humanizing the past. These discoveries grounded history, showing not myth, but method. Why what matters now? This teaches power's peril, how systems amplify ambition, turning justice to excess. One grounded parallel, modern conflicts where cultural heritage becomes collateral, from looted museums to bombed sites, echoing ancient perversions. The universal truth, humanity endures not through might, but memory. Resistance blooms in stories told. Echo the opening, the smoke clears, ruins stand silent. What changed? A sanctuary scarred, but spirits unbroken. Victims like Ilara were meant to disappear, but they didn't. They survive in chronicles, digs, echoes of resistance. And now they're here with you because you chose to listen. If this moved you, share in the comments. What echoes of ancient power do you see today? Remember the flames? They burn brightest in shared memory.